Hi, I'm Shilley and welcome to another episode in the My Hawaiian Adventure series. Now today I'm back in the Limahuli Garden and Preserve, which is run and operated by the National Tropical Botanical Gardens, through which we are partaking in this internship. And I'm sat here in the Plantation Garden, here in the Limahuli Lower Valley. Now the Plantation Garden is a really fascinating story. My last episode you heard me talk about how taro was a really important staple crop for native Hawaiians nearly 700 years ago. The Plantation Garden is designed to represent the plants that were introduced, the non-natives, the invasive plants that were brought over by the Europeans, by travellers, by explorers to the islands less than 200 years ago in some cases. It's really kind of humbling to think about that these islands would have been so pristine, so untouched when these explorers arrived. And then they bring in all their new plants, introduce different species which have outcompeted the native plants and have massively reduced populations of certain Hawaiian species. It really is quite a big problem. Now I'm going to talk to you about some of the plants that were introduced by explorers within this garden, some of which we can grow back at home, such as the bananas, and also some more unusual ones that we might not necessarily be able to grow back home unless you've got a nice greenhouse. So let's take a wander around the Plantation Garden now to have a look at some of these introduced plants. Now you'll have to excuse the noise a little bit here. I'm literally right next to the main Limahuli stream. It's quite a fast flowing stream, and if you watch my previous video, which is all about the Limahuli Valley and the native plants that they grew here many years ago, I'll explain to you a little bit about what the Limahuli stream does and how it's significantly important to grow plants within this valley. Standing by these wonderful bananas. Now these bananas are not particularly very old, they grow very quickly here, they grow very well here. What they like is the rich, nutrient-rich soil that they're planted in here. They love having as many nutrients as possible. They're thick, fleshy plants, technically herbs, not necessarily a fruit, because of the way that the plants are structured, and they put on these fantastic leafy growth. And over here, if you're lucky enough, you'll get to see some really nice bananas being formed on these plants. Now this bunch of bananas here was actually so heavy and so full of fruit that it's actually pulled over the main trunk of the plant. And that's one of the key things to remember with bananas, is that they do like to be more sheltered. They get leaf shred like this, which isn't necessarily good for the plant and looks aesthetically bad, and also if they're not protected from the wind during a strong gust, then it can bring the plant down, as seen in this case when it's in heavy fruit. Now bananas we can grow back home. There are some hardy types of bananas, some hardy musa, that can be grown back home. Not necessarily fruiting, which is a shame, but they can be used to enhance a tropical atmosphere and really enhance the feel of a patio or a garden that has a subtropical feel. They look really great. I've got one at home in my personal garden, a red banana, which is a little bit more unusual, a little bit more difficult to keep. But so long as you've got a sunny spot that's well sheltered and you give it a lot of love and care, a lot of nutrients, a lot of mulch, a lot of compost, and tons of water, which is why here is so perfect next to the stream, then your bananas will provide you with joy for many years. Now in this section of the Plantation Garden are some of the introductions that are a little bit more unusual for the Hawaiian Islands. We have a squash here, which is thriving, growing really well. We have some green onions, and we have some chili peppers, all of which became staple parts of a Hawaiian vegetable garden. They were very talented gardeners, ancient Hawaiians. And now that these are here, they've been introduced, broadened the range of flavours available for the Hawaiians, fruits available for the Hawaiians, and just generally kind of enriched their food lives very much so. But there are still negatives, pests and diseases, introducing new plants which outperform the natives, which is a big problem here, and just generally taking over when they're really not needed. Another one of the plants which you might not be able to see from here, but is literally just over there, is a mango. Some people think because they grow so well over here, and some of them are so well mature, and you see them just about everywhere, is that mangoes are actually a native. They're not. Mangoes were introduced to Hawaii and have as such now become an invasive plant to the island. Nice as the fruit is, nice as the tree looks, it is an invasive here and has started to take over native areas, which is a big problem. So not all plants are beneficial when they're brought over. They have their ups and downs, they have their perks, but they have a lot of negatives. And sometimes it's best to just leave well alone. I'm going to end this week's episode by taking a seat under this tree, which is another unusual plant, but we're quite familiar with back home because you can buy the fruits in supermarkets quite easily. This plant is a lychee. So this tree that has this lovely kind of arching habit, the branches really nice, produces those small red fruits that you take the outer casing off and then eat the fleshy inside of those seed capsules. Another introduced plant here in Hawaii, it thrives, and because it tastes so good, has become a plant that's found readily across the island, in gardens, in homes, in botanic gardens, all over the place. And I can tell you now, there is nothing better than going out to a lychee tree and picking fresh fruit off and munching on it straight away. It's delicious. Thank you again for watching this episode of my Hawaiian adventure, based at the Limahuli Garden and Preserve, a really beautiful, stunning site that has a lot of cultural significance too. And I hope that I've introduced you through these 2 episodes into some of the more difficult times of the Hawaiian period, so the introductions of plants that are now becoming invasive, but also spoken to you about how culturally significant this site is here at Limahuli, by showing you taro crops, which was a staple food for so many Hawaiians for so long, and then diverting the stream to create a complex network of streams and irrigation to ensure that these plants survive. 700 years ago, it's just phenomenal, it's mind-boggling. And then moving on into the plantation era, where plants were introduced and the Hawaiians began to be pushed out of their own land, their own plants, their own forests being taken over by these invasive new trees, new plants and new vegetables. Some benefiting their sort of culinary lives of the Hawaiians, introducing fantastic new flavours, but now 200 years down the line, many of them becoming invasive, becoming problematic and introducing pests and diseases. A really serious issue over here. And I hope that through this episode today, and through last time, I've introduced you to a little bit of Hawaiian history and spoken to you about some of the plants that we know back home quite well, but we don't necessarily correlate to the fact they might be causing problems elsewhere in the world. Thank you again for watching. This concludes my time at Limahuli here, which is a shame because I have really enjoyed my time here. I'll be back down in Allerton and McBride Gardens talking about buttress roots and some unusual fruits over the next coming weeks. So do hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on my future video updates during this series, and do post any comments, queries or questions in the box below and I'll be happy to answer them. Mahalo nui loa for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.